Well, Management Co-op is one of 40 plus programs that are available for co-op at the U of T Scarborough campus. They began in the 1970s, so we've been doing them for a while. Management specifically does around 660 work terms a year, and we are the only program currently that's accredited at the University of Toronto. The accreditation means that we choose to abide by a number of regulations as put together by Co-op Education and Work Integrated Learning Canada. It means that co-op is full-time, it's discipline related, it's in a professional environment, and it has a supervisor with feedback. The programs are typically a minimum of 12 weeks, and we rotate between study and work. But most importantly, we do have a student-centered program, so even though we have some of these guidelines, we ensure that our unique student interests and skills are at the center of our programming. Well, there's quite a few barriers that we're aware of and we're working on. One is the ability to afford work-integrated learning experiences. 70% of the students at U of T Scarborough qualify for financial aid. So the idea of taking a whole term off to complete work-integrated learning unpaid and giving up potential income is not an option. And we're aware of a few access findings, such as a 2014 study by Couture and Atfield that says that women take up a higher portion of the unpaid opportunities, and nearly half of unpaid opportunities are actually in the private sector. So we're a bit concerned about students having to choose the opportunity based on the compensation level rather than it being the best opportunity for them. The other piece is around students with disabilities. We want to make sure that they can compete and complete the co-op requirements. And that, if you think about it, for co-op, quite often there's networking involved. And if a student is in a wheelchair or has a visible impairment, or maybe they have social anxiety, networking is a very large barrier to them. It could be also commuting to the work term or completing 40 hours a week. Or maybe it's on the employer's side because the employer sees it as a large barrier to provide accommodations for a student who's going to be there for short term. We've actually faced all of these challenges. And in my mind, what's even worse is that we may not even have the opportunity to work with a student through these challenges as they may self-select themselves out of co-op due to the perceived barriers. So how are we addressing these barriers? Well, for access for students with disabilities, we have a really strong relationship with our accessibility office, and we have for a number of years. I think it goes back 10 years that we've had cross referrals. And what that means is that when a student goes into the accessibility office, their staff is well versed in how co-op runs. And if they see a student that's registered in co-op, they start to speak to them about what types of accommodations they might need. They also have a confidentiality agreement that we sign on both sides, and that allows us to sit down with a student, accessibility staff member, and come up with an individualized plan that will help that student to be successful. What's also interesting is that we have a number of students who come into the co-op program who may not have a diagnosed disability, but as they go through the process, they identify barriers that allows us to then cross-refer back to accessibility services. So we're providing a really well-rounded support for students. Where we haven't figured it all out, there's still components around how we can promote to students to apply to the program so that they don't see barriers or difficulties and self-select themselves out, but we're working on that with marketing materials and with a few committees looking at how we can better communicate with each other and with employers.